Well, now, the Chilcot inquiry is just one of the issues that's been hovering over the Labour leadership election, as has been the question of whether a full apology is needed from the party for the Iraq war. Over the course of the summer, we've interviewed all the candidates, and tonight it was the turn of Yvette Cooper, the former Secretary of State for Work and Pensions under Gordon Brown, whose support she received earlier this week. I began by asking her why the electorate have, in 2 successive elections, blamed Labour for the financial crash whilst they were in power.
Well, I think, look, they blamed us for a series of different things, and they voted against us. Well, they voted against us for a series of different reasons, and that's why it is a big challenge for Labour now to rebuild and to reach out. And I think if we think we're just going to solve this by veering a narrow party a bit to the left or veering our narrow party a bit to the right, that's not going to do it. We've got to rebuild and reach forward to the 2020 election. The
Chilcot report is still not out 6 years on. Should he not just publish and be damned?
Oh, this is a nightmare. I think for people to have waited this many years to have a response...
But should he therefore publish and be damned?
I think there's got to be a deadline for this, and I think this should be published before the end of the year. And if the Chilcot inquiry can't come to that agreement themselves, I think Parliament is going to need to debate this and to set a deadline. And I've offered to work with David Cameron in order to do that, because this has got to be speeded up.
Does Labour need fully to apologise for the war?
Well, we obviously need to see the Chilcot report to see the full circumstances, but let's be very clear. We were wrong about weapons of mass destruction. There were none. I think it was actually wrong to have taken resources and distraction from the Afghanistan conflict, which is reaching a critical stage, and clearly there were mistakes made in the post-conflict planning and rebuilding as well. So, yeah.
For which surely you could say, yes, I think that does deserve an apology.
Yeah, and I expect it will need to. But I do think this does need to be done properly.
Not quite as bold as Jeremy Corbyn says, I will apologise. Why can't you say the same thing?
Because I think you need to respond to the whole of the Chilcot inquiry and be clear what it is you are responding to. I mean, I've told you the things that I think have gone wrong. I want to hear from Chilcot about the full detail. There may be other things in addition to the things that I've said. There may be other things where he sets out a slightly different response. So I think the responsible thing to do is to give a full and detailed response which recognises the things that went wrong. And as I've said, I would expect that to include an apology, but I think it should be done in the right way at the right time, in the light of the full facts, rather than me just having a kind of half-partial conversation with you now.
But then that does just bring us to you, because you voted for it.
That's right. That's right, and I have to take responsibility for that.
Do you regret it?
Oh, yeah, of course, I certainly do. I mean, I thought there were weapons of mass destruction. That was the thing that was the key issue for me at the time, and clearly there weren't. So, you know, we all have to take responsibility for that.
You've said that you would not work with Jeremy Corbyn if he won. But if you won, would you ask him to work with you?
Well, I think that might be quite hard. I mean, obviously, look, I want everybody to work together. I want us to pull the party together.
Why might it be hard? Surely what he's doing is to raise the debate. He is talking about unsayable things. NATO, Trident, all sorts of things which actually need airing. You could do with that.
I think it's good to have the debate. I disagree with Jeremy on NATO. I think it would be wrong to pull out of NATO. I disagree with Jeremy about Trident. I'm a multilateralist, not a unilateralist. I think the problem that Jeremy would have is Jeremy's voted against the Labour Party 500 times. I'm not sure he's really going to want to be a team player as part of a Labour shadow cabinet. It's not really been his approach previously.
But in effect, what you're saying, if he wins, is that that body of people who have so stirred this electoral campaign, they must be ignored. I'm not going to take them into the cabinet.
No, you're not.
In his person.
No, I don't think that's right, because look, there are issues that Jeremy and I agree on. For example, on the importance of human rights. For example, on the importance of tackling homelessness. For example, on the importance of having a strong alternative to George Osborne's 40% cuts that he's proposing to make. I think that is an ideology of austerity. We should oppose it. Where Jeremy and I differ, though, is I don't think that you have a credible opposition to it simply by printing money. That's not the right approach. We can have a credible and strong economic alternative to what the Tories are doing and stand up for the public services that we all depend on, get the economy growing strongly. So look, there are just some big differences between Jeremy and I. That's not about ignoring people's views, that's about being honest.
But there are differences between you and any of these.
Sure, that's right.
And if you're saying we all need to pull together, surely in the first couple of years, the first thing to do is gather everybody round, including Jeremy Corbyn, including everybody, Liz Kendall, Andy Burnham, and say, let's all be in this together and work this through. You don't want to do that with him. You don't want to do that with Corbyn.
What we wanted, I'm not going to start drawing up a shadow cabinet when the
But you have, because you've excluded him.
Well, you know, what I've said is, look, I think actually it's going to be hard, given the way that Jeremy has wanted to work previously, I think it would be hard. The shadow cabinet has got to be a team, and we've got to be able to pull together. Now, that does mean having debates, that does mean recognising there'll be differences of view, but you've also then got to be able to pull together. But I want us to pull the whole party together and recognise, actually, the real
lot of it seems to be rallying behind him.
The real challenge is what the Tories are doing to Britain. We've got to be strong enough to take them on. And at the moment, my fear is if we just divide, if we just fight amongst ourselves, or if we think it's okay to just shout from the sidelines without having a credible alternative, we will let people down who depend on a Labour government and who will end up with year after year of power in the hands of a narrow Tory elite, which is devastating for Britain.
Yvette Cooper speaking to me earlier.